could clearly see that, couldn't you? I mean, it's all I know is I don't think Mikel's not the type to get distracted by other games at all, but it was completely out of character. They spoke about performance. It was the patterns of play, everything wasn't there. It was too safe, too many mistakes. And
have we seen this too many times now? It's
no,
13 draws.
And this is what I'm saying about going into another game in bad habits, and he needs to get those bad habits out of the system, because, like Jamie was saying, there's been too many draws, there's been too many mistakes by certain players which you wouldn't expect in difficult situations. And the fixtures, you know, you can see there the results. Look, it's been a bit indifferent, but that's what I'm talking about, the draws, and particularly the teams you're playing against as well, who you'd expect Arsenal to get points from. But this is going to have to change next year if they're going to want to win titles. You talk about, Jamie, you spoke about the point system, how many points to win the league. Nowhere near at the moment if they want to win the league, right, with points.
And do these drop points that we've seen consistently over these challenging few weeks and months, does that all play into this concern that for Arsenal, they still are going to have a bit of a headache before this season is out? Yes, they've got the Champions League games that will almost take care of themselves. There's still work to be done.
I think he'd be furious tonight, Mikel Arteta, because they'd be fine in terms of qualifying for the Champions League. The point being is you want to put that to bed as early as you can. Now, when you look at the fixtures, I think they've got Bournemouth, which is not an easy game at home, but that's in between the two biggest games of the season. Now, if you win tonight, you can almost write the Bournemouth game off and you change the whole team. I don't think he's in a position to do that, because what comes next, Liverpool away. So if you put a really weakened team out against Bournemouth, which I think he would have wanted to do, to really go for this Champions League final, and you lose the game, and then you go to Anfield, and there's a good chance you're probably going to lose at Liverpool on the back of playing PSG. Liverpool are at home with a free week. If you lose the next two games, the others are a point or two behind you. And then you go and, I mean, you've got Newcastle.
And then Newcastle becomes a crunch game, doesn't it?
Exactly. So that's why I think he'd be furious. And that's why I think he went with his team as strong as he did at Ipswich. It's like, put this to bed now, and then we can concentrate on the two Paris Saint-Germain games, and we'll be fine. And they'll qualify for the Champions League next year, of course they will. But you just don't want that sort of thing. You know, you're looking behind, you're looking over your shoulder. I mean, I've just looked at the stats then. You can't believe, when you look at obviously, the 6 points ahead of City. City have had an awful season by their standards. They've won the same amount of games in the Premier League. They've both won 18. You can't believe that. And that's when you just look at the numbers of the other teams there.
Do you think that's a realistic concern, given the evidence that Jamie, the case that Jamie just made, that one or two of those could actually catch Arsenal? There's a possibility they could go past Arsenal.
Well, we're talking about Manchester City, who've been dominating the Premier League for many, many years and had a poor season, who could then end up ahead of Arsenal, which everyone expected whoever finished above City would win the league. And yeah, I think that's the disappointing things, because there's been certain situations in this season where, you know, there's been discipline issues, there's been, you know, referees' decisions, or whatever you want to see it, injuries as well plays its part. But it just shows there for me that certain players, obviously going back to Odegaard, starting to feel a bit comfortable and not being pushed a bit more. And there's a sense of that in some performances. What about the
goalkeeper tonight? Would that be a concern?
Well, the goalkeeper tonight, yeah, it was, again, a bit of indifferent, but I can't, you know, Raya's been absolutely fantastic for many times, because a period of times when he won't be on the ball at all, but he's always been very consistent. Tonight it was a few wobbles, but look, it's one of those, I think he's the type of character that would really put this to bed. I think as a goalkeeper you have to. If you make decisions like a poor error, you just need to forget about it, because otherwise you won't be able to play at the top level, and particularly for Arsenal Football Club. So for me, Raya, I'm not as bothered about. I'm just talking about other players in certain positions that will be too comfortable and need to be pushed.
I think just looking at that, I still think Mikel Arteta's got to be really brave in the Bournemouth game, and I think he does have to change the majority of the players, because Arsenal in the Champions League semi-final, a chance to win the champions, you've got to go for it.
Reality is, I'm not sure he can.
I know.
He had four players on the bench tonight. Never started a Premier League game.
The point I'm trying to make is, sometimes as a manager, you have to make a brave decision, and the likelihood is they'd still qualify for the Champions League. But as I said, he won't want it. It'll be in the back of his mind, or what do we do in the Bournemouth game? But you're that close to creating history for Arsenal. Never won the Champions League before. He has to go for it against PSG. And if he has to rest players in the middle, he has to do that, and then back himself in the next sort of 3 or 4 games to get the job done in terms of finishing in the top 5.